few months or just a very short period of time, they came out with the Obama phone.
Everybody in Cleveland, low minority got Obama phone. Keep Obama in president, you know. He gave us a phone.
Free cell phones to low-income families.
TrackPhone has just started a program here in the volunteer state called SafeLink Wireless. More than 800,000 families here in Tennessee qualify for these phones. The company says this program is about providing a safe link for families no matter what their level of income is.
A very short time after that, they added free unlimited data plans to them.
He also suggested that the continuous release of the Obama phone with an unlimited data plan played a significant role in fostering the Ferguson riots using IAA. So why do you think they were targeting them for collection purposes?
Think of what you could do, right? Think of how easily you could start a riot in Cleveland if you had the data. Oh, my goodness.
So you could gather that information and know how to psychologically target them to get them upset, or...
221's out here. We have room to transport one. Can you send us a car, please? 9107 Yale Road. Okay. I will give you all your paperwork when we get to jail right now. I need to get some shoes.
Okay.
When you give them.
Okay.
Get this taken care of.
Well, this time you're not coming ever back. No.
Guys, I don't know what's happening right now. Okay, the police have just showed up at my house, and they said that they're arresting me. They said that a grand jury indicted me for something. I have no idea what. This is crazy. Where's my shoe? I have one shoe here. Okay.
One shoe there. So we're good.
So why wasn't I given anything in the mail? Like, I have no idea what this is talking about.
Yeah, Billy.
Guys, I'm literally about to break huge breaking news right now, and I'm being arrested, and I have no idea why. Burglary? For what? They're not even saying. They're saying we're being charged.
Okay. Now, is this from the grand jury or are these green sheets?
Grand jury?
Are these green sheets or are they is this midnight?
No,
Okay, very good. Okay.
This is my son right now.
All right.
Buddy.
Let's go. To the car. I've been more than nice. To the car.
I don't understand what's happening right now. Like, Please share this.
All right, folks, we got a big problem here. Gavin Wentz, the person, Millie's husband, was just arrested. I was talking to him on the phone when he was arrested. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to come for me, although I've done nothing wrong. Said nothing classified. Just talked about commercially available products and tools. They were just getting ready to release it, and the cops happened to show up. They said, I tried recording it as soon as I saw what was going on, but the screen capture wouldn't record the phone call itself. So I got a couple minutes of, I listened to everything that happened. Apparently it's for like burglary that they're looking at him for, which is ridiculous. They are literally just getting ready to release one of the most damning documents of showing Obama's national security advisor in cahoots, releasing the Shadowgate documentary, and he was just arrested for no reason. Millennial Millie's there, his kids are there. I believe the documentary is going to be pushed out here immediately. Gotta go, folks.
Now, 3 people, a team of 3 journalists getting ready to upload, or that just literally within minutes of uploading a documentary that's pretty damning to the deep state, and not a joke. I mean, this has been a thing I've worked on since 2015, before most of you guys even understood or knew what the hell Russian collusion was, or fake news, or fake personas was. I've been trying to fix this problem. I've been trying to let our government know that the people I worked for broke the law, violated national security, and had me removed when I tried to protect it, which was my job. If you're a taxpayer in the U.S., you were literally paying me to do that. So you would think that you would have some concern by that, but that's not always the case. So today I'm going to head out, and this is going to friggin' be a hard, long ride, but I'm going to head out and try to make it to Ohio on my Harley by Monday, if I can. Now it's 20 hours worth of drive, and that doesn't include, it's a 20-hour drive, and that doesn't include stops, ever on the bike. You got to frickin' stop and shake things out, right? ShadowNet mobile to where I can have all my equipment and keep on this, because right now a mother is in jail, separated from her family, separated from her children, something Democrats were all about, and she's in jail for some bullshit. If you believe that the 3 members of the 3 journalists that were doing this documentary exposing the deep state were coincidentally picked up minutes after they uploaded the video, and keep in mind, They weren't planning to upload the video yesterday. They weren't planning to be done with it until Monday. And so I think that this was a preemptive action. From what I've heard, and I can't verify it, this was something that they've been sitting on since April. And it makes no sense. And the timing of it, if you don't suspect the timing, Alex Jones, the biggest fucking conspiracy theorist on the planet, doesn't see this as an issue, well, he's fucking as dirty as I thought he was. Galvin and Millie assured me that he wasn't. That he was a straight-up guy. We were concerned about people possibly around him. But they said he was a straight-up guy. InfoWars was going to do the right thing with this. And something I didn't mention yesterday is that as I was, I think I might have mentioned it on InfoWars, but as I'm sitting there talking to Gavin, Gavin's telling me that someone was going to be interviewing President Trump on Monday that was going to ask him about Shadowgate. And I said, they aren't going to let that happen. I said, mainstream media ain't going to let that happen. Press corps isn't going to let that happen. Which I find disgusting. And I said, should you guys be able to get even that close, there's going to be another ship that blows up in Beirut or somewhere as a distraction, because you know what? And he's like, no, this is going to happen. Nothing's going to stop this. And literally, I'm on the phone with him. He's saying that as the police are rolling in. Man, we can't let this. This is like absolutely astounding, right? It has not. You cannot tell me, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist type person. Everything I deal with, I kind of stick as best as I can to it relating directly to my original 2015 IG complaint. This isn't about me. I'm a hugely flawed individual. This is about finding the truth, and following the facts and finding the truth wherever those facts lead me. Those facts led me to InfoWars, Alex Jones, not because of Alex Jones, but because of Roger Stone, who was a partner of General Jones and Dynalogy at the time I was releasing the ShadowNet, making it commercially available. Most of my time, 7+ years of my 8 years with them, I spent overseas, so I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know who they were selling it to or what was going on. That's up to law enforcement and American people to decide whether or not they want to. Here right now is just smells bad as shit. And to all those cowards out there, coward journalists that knew my story, and for whatever reason, chose not to investigate or report it, or even refer it to someone else that might investigate it or report it. They either, A, were too much afraid, they were fucking cowards, or B, they just, I'll just get paid off for this and shut the hell up. I kind of think most of them were B. We'll figure all that out maybe later. If you guys care enough about this, if you're smart enough not to make this about my dumb ass, and to make this about just finding out the truth, then our country's going to be a lot better off for it. If you don't, then our country's going to get everything it's got coming to it. Bongino and Pirro and Carter, they will go down as traitors. Traitors to the Constitution, traitors to the First Amendment, traitors to the freedom of press. It makes me sick. Prove me wrong. Boogie out. Hey folks, getting ready to head back out on the road right now. Posted a tweet earlier of a DM I got from what clearly was a former colleague. It's absolutely amazing how people are, going after me right now, but it's kind of funny because I haven't had so much as a damn parking ticket in the last 20+ years. I want to bring my divorce up from 2010, fine, crazy stuff in my life at that time. Just returned went straight from a contract I was working in Kabul, Afghanistan to South Korea, and things fell apart. 2 years separated from my family between Iraq, Afghanistan, and that takes a toll on a person's relationship. I didn't do anything wrong, neither did really my ex, or it's just the way things worked out. Somebody sent me what was clearly a threat by DM, and I posted it because it's lies. They take little nuggets of truth. Did I date after my divorce? Did I meet a Russian chick? Yeah, I did. And I heard back from her like a week later, and via text message. And I went straight inside when I got this text message, because I had a top secret clearance, and filled out a memorandum of, memorandum of contact with a foreign national. And then when we actually went out
like in person, wasn't even a date. Wrote and submitted to my security officer a memorandum that this is what was happening, because that's what you're legally required to do. Appreciate everybody's support. Thank you for helping Millie. I'm getting back on the bike right now. I can't respond very well to DMs or anything like that. I check them when I stop at rest stops for a few minutes along the way. That's about it. But this isn't a joke. This isn't a game to me. It's a game that these journalists have been playing, on all sides. It's not a joke to me. It's not a game to me. This is national security. It's people playing games with the very core of our democracy, playing with the trust of our election process, playing with everything, and just not even for politics, for profit, right? So anyway, thank you very much, folks. I'm back on the road. Won't be able to respond very well. Hoping to make some good ground today, and hopefully I'll be able to make it sometime on maybe Monday to Ohio. It's my bike's not really rigged up that well. Proud of you, Gavin. Proud of you, Millie. Proud of you, Tori. Doing a really good job. Thank you very much. God bless.
Relationship between Global Strategies Group, Analysis Corporation, and Canadian Global Information.
They all do the same thing. They're the jacks of all trade, except for the fact that Global Strategies Group was actually a hub for all information, in and out, in and out. I mean, all of the directors there were former GCHQ, CIA, NSA, MI6, MI5, German intelligence. You have to wonder, why are all these former heads heading up consulting firms? And what were they consulting? And they weren't consulting. They were collecting everybody's data and privatizing it.
John Brennan, working within his network of contracting companies such as Stanley, Canadian Global Information, and the Analysis Corporation, helped then Senator Barack Obama get elected using Internet influence operations. March 5th, 2013, Brennan gets confirmed as CIA director, dodging controversy over his involvement in the CIA enhanced interrogation scandal. Now tell us about these data bridges to the NSA. Is that legally obtained information?
I mean, that's kind of what Snowden did too.
According to sources closely connected to this subject, under John Brennan's direction, Snowden created a data bridge from the NSA database into private servers controlled by private intelligence and cybersecurity contractors, aka the Analysis Corporation, Global Strategies Group, and Canadian Global Information.
The twinning of streams is duplicating the information in the upstream. That's crazy. To think that another company is copying all emails, texts, phone calls, messages, emojis, Instagrams, tweets, anything you can imagine that's being uploaded that has to go into like the 72-hour holding is suddenly being pushed offshore. That sounds kind of illegal because it is.
June 5th, 2013. Edward Snowden goes public with the NSA program, PRISM, revealing the NSA collects internet traffic of all U.S. citizens from major internet and telecom companies through the FISA 702 program. Snowden's actions kicked off, on the federal level, justification for spying on U.S. citizens, including the Senate and Congress, in the name of preventing U.S. citizens with classified or top-secret clearances from being able to repeat Snowden's actions. This opened the door for the creation of ClearForce. July 4th, 2013. CGI and GCHQ launch a defense protection partnership, which includes sharing threat intelligence. So these were all private corporations that even had foreigners working in them, and they had access to NSA servers?
Of course they did. I mean, how do you think we found, through facial recognition of the FBI, the Belgian bomber? Why would we have their facial recognition data?
So, is this legal, what you're telling me, and why would they do it? Why would they set this up this way?
So sharing our information and our private identifying information, facial recognition, biometric, outside of the United States for official purposes, like at a consulate, at an embassy, through Secret Service or anything like that, is legal, right? Or through Interpol. But to have a company that houses everybody's data and any private person can buy that data or investigate that data or analyze that data, that's not. And that's exactly what GSG was doing.
Early 2009, John Brennan left government and went to work for a small intelligence contractor here in the Virginia area, suburban Virginia area, just outside of Washington. The company was called the Analysis Corporation. There are subsidiaries of subsidiaries. Some of these companies are spun out, go public, go private again. It's kind of hard to keep track of them.
In just 4 months, GSG, CGI, and other private contractors allegedly had unauthorized access to the entire Five Eyes network, unfiltered, unrestricted, decompartmentalized, outside any government regulation or oversight. Not surprising, the CIA gets caught 1 year later spying on the US Senate. Their excuse?
It was their own network they had set up for the Senate to use, so they had authorization.
Would you agree that the CIA's 2014 search of Senate files was improper?
This is the annual threat assessment, is it not? Yes. These were CIA computers at a CIA leased facility. It was a CIA network that was shared between Senate staffers conducting that investigation for your report, as well as CIA personnel.
Reality is those computers, in effect, belonged to the CIA, but they were reserved exclusively for the committee's use.
We accelerated our ability, our, for want of a better word, invasiveness into communications networks in which legitimate targets coexisted with legitimately protected communications.
Obama takes office, and General Jones is being sworn in as National Security Advisor. His son, General Jones' son, copyrights CKMS, Congressional Knowledge Management System. Within a couple months after he leaves office in 2010, Dynology gets the contract for CKMS, the Congressional Knowledge Management System, which basically controls all of the scheduling, the addresses, the documents, everything for the Congress. CKMS is going to give you access to unlimited information. Think about the information you could get from that.
If we look on usspending.gov, we see Dynology was awarded contracts for the Congressional Knowledge Management System. However, one contract stands out, where Dynology was awarded a contract by the Department of Defense that includes a mention of the Congressional Knowledge Management System. A closer look shows that the award description is for CKMS hosting, labor, admin, or data. The primary place of performance is Germany, and the North American Industry Classification description is data processing, hosting, and related services. Even one section stating, manufacturing outside the United States, use outside the United States. Let it sink in that these official documents suggest the Congressional Knowledge Management System, outsourced to a private contractor, is hosted, managed, and stored in servers in Germany. This is very disturbing. With the Senate's computer network compromised by John Brennan's CIA and the Congressional Knowledge Management System being hosted, managed, and stored overseas by General Jones's company, the ability for these contractors to eavesdrop on both the House and the Senate is staggering.
When I brought this up back in 2018, shortly after that, Dynology lost the contract that they had since 2011, 2012 with CKMS, and that contract went to another company that exists as nothing more than a website and a mail drop, a mile or so from Dynology's Tampa office, controlling the entire Congressional Knowledge Management.
And if you look at the contracting database, they'll say that, oh, they have an American entity. And it's like, but it's the same CEOs for this Canadian company. I'm so confused. So they even falsify information so they can obfuscate where our federal tax dollars are going. And don't forget, they all share contracts. They all subcontract, co-contract.
Cy Group has the exact same product as Dynology, the ShadowNet, and ISI, right? Yet, the owner of Dynology sits on the board of directors of Cy Group, which in my opinion is kind of like the owner of Coke sitting on the board of directors of Pepsi.
TAC, CGI, and all these LLCs that just keep cycling and cycling, all of them.
The Social Security numbers of 19.7 million Americans subjected to federal background checks as a condition of employment are now in the hands of hackers.
In June 2015, the Office of Personnel Management announced a major data breach. Tell us about the OPM hack.
Okay, so that's another Brennan job. So another hack, supposed hack. And this is to obtain, delete, and obfuscate information. Hillary Clinton was up for the shopping block about her emails right at the State Department. And that was coming up. That was big talk of the town in 2014. Suddenly, the Office of Personnel Management was hacked in December. Down the line, 5 months later, Hillary Clinton appears in court. And they tell her, hey, you're going to hand over your emails. A couple days after that, the now fired, corrupt, leaking former IG of the State Department, Linnick, had requested from our elected officials to give him a big fat budget to create his own personal IG of the State Department server.
How convenient.
Very convenient.
While we have no evidence that our data has been compromised, the fact that the contents of our network may be accessed by large numbers of department administrators puts us at unnecessary risk. The IT folks at the department have the keys to our IT system. So they really have access, unfettered access to the system if they wanted to. They could read, modify, delete. They could read, modify, delete. I would like to be completely separate from the department to ensure the integrity of our system, but I also need the department to give us access to the same systems that we have now. Give us access.
And he was responsible in releasing her emails that he gave in little doses, of course, over time. But at the same time, the press came out with a report, oh dear, months ago, there was a leak.
Do you have evidence that the State Department's network has been attacked? And does that affect you guys? There's evidence that has been attacked and it has affected us. I can't really go into details because of the nature of the information.
For people that don't know, the Office of Personnel Management usually has information on every single American that has applied for any type of clearance. So if you applied for like a White House press pass, or joined the military, or an admin job that could require something like a public Charlie clearance, anything. All your information is there.
What could they do with all that information?
Right. They started slowly creating these memorandums of understandings with your secretaries of states and attorney generals secretly behind your back, providing facial recognition data, private identifying data. This was the most incredible data. Because if you want to control someone, all you need to do is put that information through a couple of systems, and you'll know exactly what buttons you need to push, and how to make them nod their head the way you want them to, or shake it.
Millions of Americans have received letters like this, notifying them their data are at risk and referring them to a government-contracted credit monitoring agency.
Does this correlate with predictive programming?
Yes.
The merging of John Brennan's tactical intelligence and General Jones's operational capabilities gave birth to ClearForce.
ISI was the relational database component of it. That's what we named it. I named it, actually. And
What did you name it ISI for?
I, like the iPhone, to be able to collect all this information. And then I was the relational database component of it. That's what we named it. I named it, actually. And
What did you name it ISI for?
I, like the iPhone, Psy for psychological warfare.
Okay.
You have the component where you need to be able to collect all this information, and then you need to be able to collaborate this information with a team of an unspecified amount of analysts and or other legal people that will be looking at stuff, and you need to be able to provide the leadership of a tactical operation. You need to be able to provide them what's called a COPS, a common operational operation. You need to be able to provide them what's called a COPS, a common operational picture, right? So this provides people at the top common operational picture of all the different assets. Assets can be journalists, it could be an entire news organization, it could be a podcast, it could be just an individual YouTube influencer, it could be anybody like that. And you would either build them from scratch or contract them out, just bring them online.
According to Berge, the 2012 changes to the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 opened the floodgates for domestic IIA, social media influence operations. Do you think that some of these smart devices were created in order to gain access to the public by the military-industrial complex?
I know that the iPhone really was released within this, if not the same month of the IIA policy letter. Right? I know for a fact, and you can easily look it up, that the Smith-Mundt Act, Modernization Act, was modified to allow for the influence, dissemination of propaganda to Americans, which had previously been restricted or prevented by the Smith-Mundt Act in the late 40s when it was put in place. When they modernized that, they took away those protections. And when like I said, I didn't really actually finish this earlier, but I originally, in 2014, I recognized Black Lives Matter movement during the Michael Brown riots as being influenced by IIA. A colleague of mine in South Korea did a trace route on it, trace routed the source of the what I believe to have been IIA to Ukraine. That's funny, right? So, because Ukraine just always keeps popping up. And whether or not it was actually the ShadowNet itself, or it was a competitor like McChrystal, right? McChrystal, what they accused McChrystal of having is the exact same thing as what we built before him. Maybe it was a competitor. Who knows? It's becoming really a boutique market.
Do you think that many of these social media companies like Twitter, Facebook, that they were created with IIA operations in mind, and it was never intended to be a free speech platform? I mean, what's your take on that?
In our ShadowNet flyer, it has a screenshot of South American social network site, kind of like the predecessor for MySpace, owned by Google. And I believe the name was Urkut. And you can actually look on our flyer and see a screenshot from that, which looks like an active and look up what happened to Urkut, what was really Google's first attempt pre-MySpace. You'll see that it was largely shut down and largely contributed to an overwhelming use of fake personas, right? What was one of the reasons that they attributed to MySpace shutting down last year? Rampant fake personas. At the same time, I'm developing these flyers for a company that doesn't have a sales staff. They only have a product. At the same time I'm doing that, our number one partner for a company that does working John McCain's campaign.
Too risky.
Doing micro-targeted social media for John McCain's campaign.
John McCain. And I approve this message.
You were speaking on news pundits and how many of the news pundits are IA assets and intelligence assets. So tell us more about that.
Mika Brzezinski, her father is the father of influence operations and psychological warfare.
Sure. A towering figure in American foreign policy, an extended member of the NBC News family as well. Zbigniew Brzezinski, Jimmy Carter's national security advisor.
Jillian Turner, Fox News host, was also vice president of Jones Group International, doing an interview with her old boss and my old boss. Now, why would I assume that they would be using anything other than the ShadowNet? Because the owner of the ShadowNet has so many key assets, why would he need to go to anybody else, right? So they get their talking points from the analysts that are putting it together, but then they disseminate those talking points through non-attribution to their assets throughout these news organizations, utilizing an application like the ShadowNet. Jillian Turner has a direct connection to Atlantic Council. General Jones was the chairman of the board of the Atlantic Council. JGI, Jones Group International, is an oil lobby. Atlantic Council and Burisma has a relationship. Burisma is an energy company. Obviously, they have these connections.
This would explain why Fox News focuses mostly on the Biden-Ukraine scandal, never mentioning Jones's connections, nor the Atlantic Council. Trump focusing on Ukraine isn't just about Biden. It's about Jones, Hayden, Brennan, McChrystal, the State Department, USAID, and corrupt inspector generals. With everything in place, and after being in control of the office of the presidency for decades, the military-industrial complex had confidence they could take Trump out as a candidate or even as president. Has IIA been used against President Trump?
Absolutely. Through the Russian dossier, there are so many people, former colleagues of mine, directly connected to the ShadowNet. John McCain and Lindsey Graham, one of the last two people to have their hands on the Russian dossier before it was handed off to BuzzFeed as part of the dissemination process.
I told the president it was not John McCain. I know because John McCain showed me the dossier.
It was built, it was a product, it was used as a weapon, as part of an influence operation. It was fake information put into it to help create chaos and to influence an election. Bottom line, right? But those people that were directly involved with that were also directly involved with the ShadowNet.
So, you have knowledge of them using military-grade psychological warfare weapons on the president of the United States.
Done by the closest people around him, too.
As Trump's election unfolded and as all of the Russia collusion and all revealed to me, it was to keep from exposing the stuff that they've been doing over here, which I believe includes the Maidan massacre in Ukraine.
Where did the dossier come from? Nellie Orr testified it came from Ukraine. Where's all the money laundering and crazy IIAs we see going on? Ukraine.
So Manafort's being accused of social media influence operations in Ukraine in 2010. World courts charged him with that.
Ukraine was the epicenter of everything. Like everything. And that's because we had maimed that nation and made them yield to us. Barack Hussein Obama did it. You know, we deployed troops, National Guard, of course. And what states are the ones that work with Ukraine? It would be California and New York. So we deployed troops there because, you know, they weren't listening. It's like, why would you want to stay independent and hang out with the Russians when you can be with us, the Americans and the Europeans? And they were really upset that they weren't willing to commit to receive debt from the EU and ignore Russia, which they had been attached to for eons. So we went in there and destroyed them. That's how Hunter Biden got his job. That'll help you out with your lawsuits. You get us in there. We wrote bills. We sent them money so we can help them conduct elections. We did everything there.
The Obama aid package in Ukraine, which corresponds with Joe Biden's billion-dollar loan guarantee scandal, is the same aid package where Seidel got a field office in Kiev to provide election training and election management for the Ukrainian Election Commission. Seidel is one of the most notorious outsourced companies for elections, with regular electronic voting machine problems, who also tabulate our election results in cloud services in Europe, aka servers outside the United States. A whistleblower leaked to me in 2019 internal documents from Seidel that appeared to show meddling in the Kentucky election.
Atlantic Council has been citing America's policies for decades, now. And look at what a panic they were in when Trump made that phone call to Ukraine. They went into absolute panic mode. 75% of the people testifying were all directly connected to General Jones, McCain, and Atlantic Council.
The now IG of the NSA, literally with his wife, created the National Anti-Corruption Bureau in the Ukraine in 2009. They created it.
As Inspector General's office.
Це пан Сторч. По скайпу є зв'язок у нас?
I recognize how important this task is for NABU and for the effort to address corruption there in Ukraine.
September 30th, 2016. Obama knows that within 30 days, if the NSA can't fix the overcollection problem by either dumping data or justifying having it, the FISA court will order the IG of the NSA to investigate. So what does Obama do? He writes an executive order that makes the IG of the NSA a presidential appointment rather than an appointment by the director of the NSA. November 30th, 2016. Obama nominates Robert Storch, who was working as deputy IG of the DOJ under Horowitz at the same time.
I'm Rob Storch, and I'm honored to serve as the Inspector General at the National Security Agency.
During the transition period from the Obama administration into the Trump administration, Storch appears to never have actually been confirmed by the Trump administration.
How did this guy get confirmed? Not one person asked, hey, have you ever worked for... I mean, a couple months before they even had the hearing to see if he's going to be confirmed or not, nobody asked him, hey, did you by any chance get an offer from the president of Ukraine to work for them? It was all over the media, but not one person asked. You know who else helped them set it up? Bill Taylor and George Kent, those two clowns, also testified against the president. One of them has supersonic hearing. They could hear phones that are not on speakerphone from across the room. So
that's odd. According to Tory, the alleged impeachment whistleblower was actually a wiretap, hence supersonic hearing capabilities. Eric Ciaramella was a decoy to hide the fact that the president was being wiretapped through a 702 data overcollection problem connected to the Sunset Clause, collection problem that the NSA Inspector General Robert Storch oversaw.
So the question is, what has been the Senate Intelligence Committee? All complacent, every single one of them. Because it's their job to be our voice and ask those questions.
So I mean, I guess
they're in on it.
So I guess the question is, are they all just that inept? Or is there something else going on? Section 702 of the FISA Amendment Act of 2008 was created to stop illegal surveillance through data collection. It ends up being used as cover providing the intelligence agencies front-facing legal access to unauthorized data, while turning a blind eye to private contractors having backdoor access to all data.
I had access through the administrative side platform, because I was one of the first on it, to be able to see all communications between people like Adam Schiff, Brennan, Feinstein's staffers, and General Jones, and many more that I don't want to say because I haven't publicized that yet, actually. Because there's foreign people. I did see communications of former GCHQ head Hannigan, Robert Hannigan, a company at GSG, right? So I gave most of this information to Millie Weaver, and she put out a report. And even though I had legal access to all their communications, because I had my username and password, the minute she did that report, within just, I believe, almost instantaneously, the website was taken down and my access was revoked. They changed it. Well, it wasn't revoked. They just upheld the whole server. It was done. It was finished. They made it toast. I mean, that's what they do. But nothing ever really dies, really. Because the way they use their servers is by torrents. So all their information is hidden somewhere across the planet. Maybe we should look at some old articles that I put out on Hurricane Electric to find those servers and those little bits and seed them correctly. So, I mean, you'd be able to seed it with something like a keystone.
Mail collected on any politicians? I want to ask you about John Brennan and the blackmail. So, who all did he have blackmail collected on? Any politicians?
You mean that I've seen?
Yes.
A lot of people. Yes.
And politicians?
Yes.
So, would you say there's any side more Democrats or more Republican, or is it kind of even?
Very even, Stephen.
Okay, so once this blackmail was collected on politicians, what did they do with it?
Even Pelosi doesn't know what they have on her. Neither does Blumenthal. Nobody. I can keep going down.
But do they know that these people have blackmail on them?
Only if they've butted heads.
Okay.
So we saw a butting of heads between Murkowski, was it, and Feinstein, right? That's a butting of heads. That's where it's like, hey, we got this. You know, we should put her up against the wall. It happens all the time.
Now you know how our government has been compromised. 24/7 surveillance mixed with blackmail. What's the significance of Cambridge Analytica being attached to Trump's campaign?
Everything that I saw with the description of like how Cambridge Analytica functioned, what they did, their computer applications, everything that I saw with that, I would describe as just a later iteration of the ShadowNet.
Was Cambridge Analytica, to your knowledge, an IAA operation?
Yes, it was. And I believe that it was so blatant because it was piloted at the same time that the RNC and the DNC were hacked. It was all formulated correctly.
I've said to you, it's all coming out, and the question is how. I didn't conspire leak Hillary's emails, and I have nothing to do with Russia. So, yes. The fact is, it looks like I did both. Does it look like you did both? If I wasn't me, I would say yes, that's what it looks like. I was part of the team running Obama's Facebook. We invented the way social media is used to communicate with voters.
This is how they were going to do it. You know, they were supposed to go in. They were supposed to sway him because they were supposed to give up the goods to match the Russia hack.
Why would they be running an IAA operation that would be helping Trump win? Because that doesn't make sense when we know that General Jones is a Democrat and many of these people don't like Trump. So what gives?
Well, because then we just make it look like Russia was running the Cambridge Analytica program too.
And it admits to it right here. I am headed to Washington, D.C. for my testimony. It admits to it right here. I am headed to Washington, D.C. for my testimony for the Mueller investigation. I definitely didn't think that while we're sitting there counting votes that some of those votes were made by people who had seen fake news stories paid for by Russia on their Facebook page.
So not only did they hack the DNC and the RNC, but nobody talks about that, right? Because we're only supposed to focus that Russia was hacking just the DNC, not the RNC. Keep forgetting about that. Because it was just information Brennan was gaining. They wanted to get access to servers. That's the way it goes. Anyway, Cambridge Analytica at the same time would be supposedly helping President Trump win. And the Russia collusion hoax would have stuck better because behind all those LLCs and the glitz and glamour, they would have had some statue of Vladimir Putin in a tutu waiting for you.
Yeah, I worked at Cambridge Analytica while they had Facebook data sets. Went to Russia one time while I worked for Cambridge. I visited Julian Assange while I worked for Cambridge. Pitched the Trump campaign and wrote the first contracts. I have an email from one of our senior data scientists that said that we were actually using Facebook-like data in our model. The methodology was considered a weapon. Weapons-grade communications tactics. Well done, Britt. Looked quite tough, and you did okay. With a winky face, little emoji.
When we found out that Cambridge Analytica reached out to WikiLeaks and said, hey, can we help? What that means is we've got a Russian intelligence operation underway to illegally influence the U.S. election in Trump's favor. And we've got the data firm paid by the Trump campaign offering operational help to that effort.
Are there any ties between Mr. Trump, you or your campaign, and Putin and his regime. Ties between Mr. Trump, you or your campaign, and Putin and his regime.
No, there are not. It's absurd, and there's no basis to it.
Cambridge Analytica was used to create the appearance that Russia conducted influence operations to help Trump win the 2016 election.
Stone, Manafort, Davis, McCain, Jones, all of these people have been doing the knowledge a decade. These people have been doing this for, to my knowledge, a decade of my personal fact witness knowledge. They've been doing this for a decade prior to Trump even running for office. I met with Roger Stone. We were at his table at a speaking engagement that he did in Clearwater, Florida. And I asked Roger Stone at that time, did you work with, do you know Jim Jones? Or did you work with Dynology? And he acknowledged his relationship. And he said, yeah, sure. I did ask, I asked him flat out. I said, did you use the ShadowNet? Sure. I did ask, I asked him flat out. I said, did you use the ShadowNet? Did you know about it? He's like, no.
Stone, leaving the Trump campaign early on, suggests candidate Trump didn't want his campaign tied to Stone's influence operations.
We really pioneered negative campaign advertising.
Stone does have a reputation for political.
I revel in your hatred, because if I weren't effective, you wouldn't hate me. I revel in your hatred, because if I weren't effective, you wouldn't hate me.
Manafort and Roger Stone go way back, like from the 80s. You know, like, come on. These people have been through everything together. And, you know, this is why they targeted them. And this is why they went on Manafort for things that were, like, ancient. It's like, man, no, not even a statute of limitation, not anything. Come on, man, seriously? Nope.
Cygroup and Wikistrat's absolutely connected to the ShadowNet, through the owners of the ShadowNet, through the fact that Cygroup, through Paul Manafort, submitted a proposal to Trump's campaign. Now, Trump's campaign rejected the proposal. I love that man, right? That's why I keep voting for him. Because even when he's given the opportunity to do that, he rejected it.
The Trump campaign must have known the Dems would try to use anything against them. Trump must have sensed that the offer for influence operations was a honey trap to set him up. Well, do you think that the reason they attached Manafort to Trump's campaign, because that was kind of later, right? Mm-hmm. They attached him onto there. Do you think it's because they were trying to frame up Trump?
Yes, because they failed with their IAA attempt.
Yeah, I definitely would say that Manafort was an asset. Whether or not he fully understood what his role was, you know, they might have lied to him about what their true intentions were. I believe they fully intended to throw him under the bus. They could not let Hillary win, and they could not let Trump keep his seat, right? So they were trying to kill two birds with one stone, using Manafort to make sure that Hillary doesn't win through IIA, through Wikistrat, through his connections there, and then those same people turning around, throwing him under the bus by somebody who had previously worked with Manafort and understood what he had been doing and what he was doing, and used that to exploit him as a way to hurt Trump.
Since their whole attempt to have him employ a company to help him win, and use these psychological operations that the left was using. I mean, they're doing it, we should do it. And he didn't.
And that's in the Mueller report. That's in the New York Times. There are several instances where he's rejected the opportunity to take advantage of influence operations, be it IIA supported or just your standard run-of-the-mill influence operations, right? They've rejected that.
And the thing is, people like Roger Stone aren't saints, but they're not demons either. They skirt the outs, and they're great at what they do. And, you either love him or not. It's like brie cheese. But the one thing that you can be sure of is that he sticks to his principles. And if he's your friend, especially if he's been your friend for 40 years, like he was with President Trump, there's no way he's going to flip on you to save his butt. Ever. Because that's what honest people do.
Yeah, he seems to know how the games in the swamp are played.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, he knows how they operate.
He was actually framed by people that he worked with. I mean, that software was created, by his friend that created the Magic Wheel software, like implemented ShadowNet for the courts so they can, randomly have such specified, out of millions of people that were in the pool, they were all, intelligence contractors and never Trumpers. Come on.
So why wouldn't they just focus their efforts on running IAA operations to get Hillary in office?
Oh, they did. Are you kidding? They deployed everything from censoring, shadow banning, to dismissals, to full-blown mockingbirds. I mean, that's where we saw the real face of the press. That is exactly where we saw it.
I want all of you to know that that's true not only for the campaign, but if I am fortunate enough to be your president, I want you to know, and I want you to tell anybody you know, any friends or colleagues at school or work or your neighborhood, whether you vote for me or vote against me.
The polls, 98% chance Hillary Clinton wins. What?
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Those were bogus.
Everything. That was an IIA. That was hijacked reality to think she's already won, so obviously she's the best. All the superstars coming out, how she's amazing, all these concerts, and all to divert you away from the fact that she couldn't walk, talk, climb stairs, say a word without checking up.
Hillary Clinton is on stage right now as we speak, and she is coughing nonstop.
Did she check up a lung or something that one time?
Yeah.
That was super weird.
There is a definitely some context that needs to be understood in the relationship between General Jones, Obama, and Hillary Clinton. General Jones was originally offered by Obama the position of Secretary of State
he accepted. Talked to his family, accepted. And then 2 days later, without even telling him, which was kind of a jerk move to do, Obama turned around and tapped Hillary Clinton. And I know that Jim Jones, told me that his dad was really offended by that. And then he was offered and accepted the position of National Security Advisor, but actually considered turning it down because he was so offended by what it was, so upset by what it happened.
What would be the point of, like, making Hillary out of the equation to then get Trump in to then want to just impeach him?
He wasn't their choice. These people hate Trump. He's a jackass.
So
we're talking about at the time,
that would just make Pence in charge.
Well, which Pence? You think John McCain would have rather had Pence in charge? You think Lindsey Graham would rather have Pence? Lindsey Graham was so frustrated with Trump, he took his phone and smashed it on YouTube because Trump gave out his phone number. Trump drove that man crazy.
Trump got in the way of the big game, a contest between contractors and subcontractors, over who gets first dibs on defense, security, and tech contracts.
Mueller, since I think it was like August of 2016, was well aware that I had in my possessions portions of the DNC mirrored server in February and March. Did you know that?
I did not.
And when my private life was collapsing, the same exact day, not without a minute of separation, I was served by Barack Hussein Obama's attorney 3 years later to come and talk about it. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
They went as hard as they could. Stone, the same thing. They went with nothing. Like, look, Mueller called him in, right, for these emails and talking about WikiLeaks when I had actual portions of the DNC. Like, even Mueller knew I had it.
Why did Mueller never call me back when I went to him and told him about all this information and spoke to him for 15 minutes? Every one of these people are so corrupt. It's not even... Some people will say, well, maybe they're investigating. And how can you investigate it if you don't ever call me back? And you don't ever really... Because there's a lot of things that I need to be able to explain to them that I can't say outside of a classified environment. So that if you don't ever call me back and you don't ever really...
Stop. We all know it was a fix.
Did the DOJ outsource the Mueller investigation to CGI?
Well, yes, they did. So I'll tell you what happened. So I actually, for my listeners on air, I interviewed former attorney.
Outside of a classified environment. So they're not even, if they are investigating it, they certainly aren't doing it with all the information.
Stop. We all know it was a fix.
Did the DOJ outsource the Mueller investigation to CGI?
Well, yes, they did. So I'll tell you what happened. So I actually, for my listeners on air, I interviewed former acting Attorney General Whitaker. I want to ask you something. You were Chief of Staff for Jeff Sessions. So there's obviously contracts that are Chief of Staff for Jeff Sessions. So there's obviously contracts that are signed, like, you know how you